Hey everybody, happy Monday. I'm going live on a Monday, not on Sunday. Yesterday I had some tech issues, so I'm very, very happy to see you here for our sort of like previous week recap and also this Monday recap, because that's the benefit of going live on Monday. I can report on everything that did happen today. So thank you so much for your patience. Also, happy May. Last time we met, last Sunday. This was still April, so I'm very happy to see you here. Psycho, hello. I hope this is something nice. I don't know what this means, but I hope it's something nice. Okay, welcome, welcome. And by the way, I welcome your comments and questions and even fact checks. If you have a proof, I'm gladly, will stay corrected. I'm very grateful for your participation here. Hi, Patty. Hello, guys. Thank you so much for joining. It's a packed hour. I will try to keep it to an hour. Maybe it's going to be 90 minutes, but it's going to be packed and it's going to be interesting. And yes, I did try my best to avoid those, clickbaity videos that come from the White House that are pretty much entertainment and do not bring you or me or anybody any value, right? Rather than those who profit off of clickbait, which we actually don't, right? So, of course, yesterday, and I prepared this for yesterday, right, was May 4th. And we know this thing, May the 4th be with you, right? The reference to, of course, Star Wars. And, the White House posted this, obviously AI generated. And, with the red sword and everything. I personally prefer last year's picture. This was also May 4th, and May the 4th be with you. But, if you celebrate it, well, good for you. Now, today, of course, is May 5th, and let's discuss the Sunday media dump, as I call it, because Trump administration has this tradition now to go on several TV shows, like Meet the Press and whatnot, and start talking and blabbering. So let's quickly get through it because there were some announcements that do affect a couple of people. So let's, a couple of millions of people. So let's discuss. First, and I'm looking at my notes here, I'm not side-eyed, but first, Trump joined in an interview on NBC, and he touched upon different topics. Topic number one was economy. And this, believe me, this is the snippet that shows him dissecting our economy that allegedly worked this way, that you have an economy of the previous president, and then parts of it are of the current president, and somehow the current administration is not responsible for anything happening. Take a look.
The Trump economy.
It partially is right now. And I really mean this. I think the good parts are the Trump economy and the bad parts are the Biden economy, because he's done a terrible job. He did a terrible job on everything.
And of course, the discussion is on the new budget that is proposed by the Trump administration. And in short, this chart represents their priorities. And if you really look into it, right, this is the party of law and order, and they're taking 8% from justice and education and commerce and agriculture, treasury, NASA, health and human services, interior, small business administration, labor. Yeah. Housing and Urban Development, Environmental Protection Agency, National Science Foundation. What's there? I can't see it. International programs, right? And then they're adding budget for Social Security Administration. Well, it's at zero, right? They're not adding anything, and they're pretending not to take anything away. They're adding to Energy, Veterans Affairs, weirdly, because they seem to cut all the offers and all the aid for veterans. They're adding to transportation. Now, this is related to the new FAA system that they tried to install, although Newark FAA employees literally walked out of the airport and said, this is too crazy. We're not going to be part of it. They're also adding to defense. Yes, that's your Golden Dome. And Homeland Security, that's the deportations. And take a look. They're adding, 65% extra to the Homeland Security budget for the deportations that are mainly kidnappings. And I covered AOC, our representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez town hall, and I have a little clip by the end of this hour here, but you can read my, perhaps you did read already, my extensive report on everything she mentioned. And to quote her, she said, look, these deportations are mainly kidnappings, and even this administration says that, look, we have millions of people whom we want to get rid of, and we cannot offer them due process because it's going to take years. Trump was also asked if he will obey the Constitution, and he said, well, this is a questionable thing. I will be listening to my lawyers, which is, if any, literally any president in any country, rather than Russia or Iran or any like China or any authoritarian regime, any president of any democratic country or country based on democracy would have said that would have been not just the big news, that would have been the reason for investigation, potential impeachment, civil war even. But here, we're so accustomed, and this is the strategy, to fill the air with so much BS that anything that is said, you're like, okay. Well, President posted himself as a pope, whatever. Oh, they can't offer due process. Oh, whatever. They're reopening Alcatraz. Oh, whatever. They're deporting people to Guantanamo Bay without due process. Whatever. They're photoshopping knuckles of people in Venezuela and say they literally write MS-13 in Verdana font or whatever, or Times New Roman, and they say, oh, this is the actual, tattoo. And you're like, whatever. It's so much whatever that unknowingly or knowingly we put ourselves into this state of survival without fighting for anything that seemed to be normal or seemed to be that famous and infamous system of United States that we could rely on. And this is the big question, what we gonna do about it? Because I can report on it as much as you want. I can tell you what's good, what's bad, what's ugly as much as I want, but what are we gonna do about it? I do not see much, even though AOC was great in her town hall, but the party unity, I mean, come on, guys, it's 5th month. It's May, right? You still couldn't figure out the thing you're gonna do? There's some town halls, there's some people are walking on the streets, but unanimously, like, what are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? Because all we do, and media, of course, responsible for it, is just documenting, and it's like you go to a part, somewhere a car accident happened, God forbid, and all you can do is like, oh, this guy's dying, this guy is bleeding to death, oh, this guy is filming, and this guy is doing the. Nobody is helping. Nobody is calling 911. That's my biggest worry, rather than, reading this dump and nonsense. But let's continue with that. On trade, Trump said, we're making a lot of money. We're doing great. Again, we were losing more than 5 billion a day. We're going to be at the point soon where we're making money every day. I covered his Air Force One speech when he was flying to Rome to attend Pope Francis' funeral and ceremonies. And he said that we are making 2 billion a day. And first he said to 5 million, then it was 5 billion. And he said, we're making 2 billion. Now, a week later, it's at some point we will be at the time where we will have millions of, in profit. And then it changes to billions again. And all of it is not true. Now, on border emergency, the big emergency, he says, right now is that we have thousands of people that we want to take out. And we have some judges that want everybody to go to court. Oh, no. Judges following Constitution? You say. We have millions of people. We're going to have millions of court cases? Well, when Trump was prosecuted, he wanted those court cases. He was showing up to court. So why didn't you waive your rights and just go to prison if all of that due process is really not important? Because you were in that seat and you wanted the process and you got your process, deservingly so. And now what does happen, which AOC also talked about, is that people are here, understand one thing. It's not just people who cross the border running from danger or having any alternative motives, right? This also does exist. We have to be realistic. But there are people on TPS, meaning temporary protected stay. This is also, if you think about this, applied for 300,000 Venezuelans. And this got removed. And think about it. There's also people from Afghanistan who worked with the United States military and got promised to be here after the war is over. And then they were stuck elsewhere. And now they're not even entering the United States. Now, Ukrainians, the U4U program, United for Ukraine, this is another name, right? Because they had to put 200,000 or 250,000 cap on people from Ukraine. US was one of the least, right, or one of the countries who took the least number of Ukrainians in, to be frank. And this was under Biden administration. He had reasons for it. The talk is not about that. But these people, and I know it personally because I helped people file for it, they had to pay entire fees, right, which is over $1,500. They had to have an affidavit from a sponsor who is an American and can verify that they will not ever ask for a dollar or a penny from this country's government, or they had to show cash that they have enough to sustain themselves here for a couple of years. Then they had to go through medical checks. They had to have absolutely every single vaccine you can imagine. When I was applying for my green card, I'm a citizen, but decades ago, I would apply for my green card. And I came in and I said, look, this is my immunization. I was, everything was caught up, and then they said at the USCIS, United States Immigration Services, they said, well, but you're lacking like 7 and we're going to charge you $70 each. And do you want it now? And I said, what, 7 vaccines at once? And they're like, well, or you're going to lose your appointment for your green card. I was like, okay, stab me. And this is what people are going through also since the Bush administration and the agreement that everybody has to pay and pass the AIDS test to even immigrate. These people went through all of this and they're here and they have permits to work and they pay tax and they have LLCs registered and they are on W-2s or W-9s. These people are now, because the TPS status has been removed, they are considered illegal. And when we look at this thing here, plus 65%, that's where the money is going to go to deport them. And now the question is that the government did propose today is to give $1,000 to every illegal to say, go bye-bye, fly yourself, because now we allegedly and apparently recorded so many flashy PR videos with deportations that we're not interested to overpay and deport illegal, well, what they call illegals, we call it migrants, and actually legal immigrants who are here. Yeah. Now they don't want to waste money on those military planes that were overpriced to begin with. On those $1,000 here, I have a clip. I labeled it. Let me see. I'm a little blind. Where do I have it? Because I plan to talk about it later, but since I talk about it now, here's Trump talking about this $1,000, giveaway to all immigrants who want to leave.
The movie tariffs.
Yeah, the movie tariffs, what they've done is other nations.
Wrong. Okay, well, when I find it, we'll talk about it. Stick to the program, Olga. Then everything will go back. Yes, everything will be back. Okay, we'll talk about it. I have a whole lineup. Trust me. Okay, so anyway, let's go back to the program. Also, Trump said that we're losing hundreds of billions of dollars with China. Now we're essentially not doing business with China. Therefore, we're saving hundreds of billions of dollars. It's simple, he says. Well, if you don't want to eat, it's like, oh, I waste every day. I waste this and this amount of money because I have to eat. And now I'm just not eating. So I'm saving money. It's very simple. Honey bunny boo boo. Goldman Sachs president said that we're missing 1/3 of imports in United States today. Now imagine what's going to be in a couple of weeks when we go to a store of your choice, and things are empty. And I was born in Soviet Union, so I perfectly know from the stories that my parents and my relatives told me, and then I saw it myself, where you stand in line, that is like blocks and blocks around the store, and you have a little coupon that gives you this 1 liter of milk or 1 piece of cheese or 1 piece of sausage, and then you can come next month. This is coming. This is what people voted for. And this is what people are still defending. And here's my question. When you're going to start eating your pats, really, what Trump claimed that people were doing, Haitians were doing somewhere, when people will, consider that an option, you're going to still be defending this nonsense? Are you going to be moving? Are you going to be waiting? In less than 90 days, borders will be closed. I mean, hint, hint, read his orders. So he also said, on China tariffs, at some point I'm going to lower them because otherwise you could never do business with them. And they want to do business very much. No, it's you who want to do business very much. I want to ask you, every single one of you, look around in your room. How many things are made in China? And then open your fridge, open the things that you eat every day and you can't live without, and check where they come from. Probably Mexico, probably Canada, maybe even China. If you shop for food at Walmart, that's what happens. You're going to be stunned how many things are actually imported. And if you love coffee like I do, congratulations. We're about to switch to that mushroom shitty shit if it's made in USA. So, also on, last week, Trump said this on China. Let's revisit. He said China deserves the tariffs. Take a look.
Secretary said we basically have an embargo on China.
Look, you're trying to say something's going to happen, Terry.
No. Okay, well,
nothing's going to happen.
You know business.
Terry,
I want to ask you.
I do know business.
Yes.
And
so 145% tariffs on China, and that's good. Basically
That's
an
good.
embargo.
They deserve it.
It'll raise prices on
They
everything
deserve
from
it.
electronics.
They deserve it. Then yesterday he says this.
I guess you're talking about this transition cost. How long should people expect that transition to last, Mr. President?
I can't tell you that. I can tell you that we're making a lot of money. We're doing great. Again, we're losing more than $5 billion a day. $5 billion a day. You don't talk about that. And right now, we're going to be at a point very soon where we're making money every day. Look.
How soon?
We were losing.
And Keith, hey, welcome. I agree with you. All his merch is made in China. Maybe they stuck up, they got more of it, whatever. But he says we're losing $5 billion. What he does is he opens ChatGPT and says, how much does the United States spend on XYZ goods or all goods a day on average bought in China? And I encourage you to do it yourself. And you're probably going to get an answer about 5 billion. And he thinks because it doesn't touch him, because in his world, nothing comes from China, including his merch, then it's a waste. Because you have to get into this mentality where I don't really care about you. I don't care about you eating. I don't care about you living, breathing, sustaining yourself. I really only care about me. If you get into this mindset, then you might understand these quotes. Otherwise, if you try to dissect them based on logic, you're going to fail. Based on economies of scale and any science, you're going to fail. You can only explain it if you get into the mentality that my way or highway, I only see me, everybody else is just here to serve me. And the poor people and the old people and people who cannot serve me well are waste of air. You have to get into this. I know it's harsh. I know it sounds horrible. But in order to understand this and hence digest it, you have to get into this mindset. If I'm wrong, and if somebody says that I am opinionated and I'm wrong, prove me wrong. I ask you to prove me wrong because you honestly will make my day, my week, my month, my year. Because if you prove me wrong, that this is not the mentality, I will love you forever because you will be my last hope. So prove me wrong or stop saying that I'm opinionated. Now, so Besant, our Treasury Secretary, was today, well, he did a media dump today, and he talked about China, where he was asked about tariffs on China, and he was very nervous, stuttering, not really understanding what's going to be next, because they probably don't have even an idea. Take a look.
You're heavily involved here. You have said they need to de-escalate and start that process for us to get going on trade talks. Have they made any effort at this point?
I think we could see substantial progress in the coming weeks. We'll see. That I think it's Stein's law, that which is not sustainable doesn't continue. So 145%, 125% tariff levels are the equivalent of an embargo.
Yep.
And we're reading every day what's happening with factories in China. And from an academic point of view, I can tell you that the history of trade battles, we are the deficit country. The surplus country always has the most to lose.
Are you
Look at the
considering
animal.
tariff?
I don't know what academics he's using. We're not in deficit because we are exporting more services than we do import. That is computer systems, software, anything. We export more than we import. So if you were to calculate services and products together, we're actually in a surplus. What academy? What are you talking about? What academics are you talking about, honey bunny? And then, of course, the United States is the country of possibility for small businesses. Now, this is what President talked or said when asked about small businesses. Take a look.
Are you
Look at the
considering
automobile
tariff
business.
relief for small businesses?
Why do you always mention that, you pick up a couple of little businesses? What about the car business? They're going to make a fortune because of the tariffs. Do you know that the union, the head of the union, who was no fan of mine, Sean Fain, I guess his name is, right? He didn't endorse me. The Teamsters did. A lot of people did. A lot of unions did. But he didn't. He couldn't stand me. Now he's saying, wow, what's Trump's done for the...
Car businesses are not small businesses. Okay? I hope tomorrow Mark Carney, Prime Minister of Canada, will explain him and actually maybe even draw. Look, this is the line, the border. Canada, United States. Cars go like this. They're built here, painted here, assembled here, some other stuff added here, here, here. They cross the border 7 times. You're gonna tariff them every single time they enter. So then they're gonna start building elsewhere and just pay one-time tariff for importing the done good. Or if you want car manufacturers, who again are not small businesses, the question was about small businesses, okay? Now, car manufacturers. We are in this limbo. We are in the integrated system with Canada for over, 60 years. So in order to take that apart, you need to start, and remember last week's executive order where now the steel is separated from cars and aluminum is separated. And my question is, who's going to separate all that? Are we charging already tariffs or, what are we doing? But I hope tomorrow Prime Minister Carney is not going to be very nice and sweet, but will actually educate them. And if he will fail to educate them, which I suppose off camera, I hope he will state what needs to be stated on camera. And we're going to talk about Carney and Canada in just a bit. But I really, really look forward to this type of experience and not something very diplomatic and honey boo boo, because this is not a honey boo boo moment. And this seems to be either he understands it and just lies, or he doesn't understand it and just shares what he thinks. Who knows what's true, but none of this makes sense. And small businesses have absolutely nothing to do with car manufacturers unless you're fixing tires and you run a station or whatever. But I digress. Let's go further. He was also asked about Canada. He still again dived into we're subsidizing Canada, which we do not. All of that nonsense. I don't even want to play that again. Then he was again asked about a successor, and he said, no, I want to be president for 8 years. Is he counting previous 4 yees? If he's, because some newspapers started talking, oh, he wants to stay now 8 years, or others like, okay, he actually confirmed he's just going to be gone in 4 years. My question is, how messed up is the situation where we have to guess if the president meant that he wants to leave in 4 years or he wants to stay in 4 years? Put anybody in his spot. Could be Biden, Bush, Clinton, Obama. Anybody would have said that. They would be out and about in a day. Dismissed by their own party, first and foremost. And then he was asked about his successor. He said, oh, I don't think about it. Yeah, I have J.D. Vance, but I don't want to even, And then again, the talk was about Greenland. Since we're not going to talk much about Greenland, take a look what he said here.
You are not ruling out military force to take Greenland.
I don't rule it out. I don't say I'm going to do it, but I don't rule out anything. No, not there. We need that. We need Greenland very badly. Greenland is a very small amount of people, which we'll take care of and we'll cherish them and all of that. But we need that for international security.
The Trump.
He doesn't need Greenland for international security. He needs it for minerals, same as he needs Congo and Ukraine. Let's just... Hey, guys. Karma, hi from YYC. Is that NYC? Hi, Karma. Hello. Hey, James. Hello. Welcome, welcome. Tidy White. Oh, I like it. Hi, Olga. I'm listening here the best I can. Hang out with a friend while we watch. Oh, and thank you for sharing the stream. Thank you, thank you, thank you. By the way, if you can like, subscribe, and share, I would love it. I thank you so much. If you watch it on YouTube or X, whatever, if you can do so, I'm very, very grateful for you. So it can be recommended to other people who are interested in this. Okay? All right. Okay. Let's continue. So this was on Greenland. It's another lie. It's another story, right? It has nothing to do with national security. He has to mention that everything has to do with national security to be able to talk about tariffs and impose them, because president can only do so if this is connected to national security threat. And so again, coming back to the meeting of Prime Minister of Canada Carney tomorrow at the White House with President Trump, I hope he makes it very clear that this has nothing to do with fentanyl. It has nothing to do with national security. So let the Congress, maybe vote on the tariffs, which they tried last week, and 2 people were missing, and so they were stuck in 49-49, and then Vance cast his vote and nothing happened on tariffs. It's another story for another day. But he also was asked about taking the country into authoritarian direction. And in normal world, what type of answer would you expect, right? So authoritarian, what are you, crazy? We're a democracy. We're known for being a democracy, the land of the free. We wave the flag, we sing the anthem. The answer was
Picture
this.
people who have lived in countries like the Philippines, Hungary, Russia. They look at some of your actions going after civil service, going after universities, law firms, the media. They say it's out of an authoritarian playbook. What do you say to those who believe you are taking the country down an authoritarian path?
Well, there you go again. Why don't you ask it a different way? Many people wanted to come into our country. Many people love Trump. I won the election. They didn't win the election. I got a lot more votes than they did. I won the popular vote. I won all 7 swing states by a lot. A lot of people were surprised.
We're not denying. We're saying you voted for it. There's another clip from last week where he literally says, you voted for it. I told you what I'm going to do. And let's be frank. Trump administration did everything to tell us what's to come. They even put it in 890 or 790 pages in Project 2025. Yeah, they denied it, blah. But if you read it, you know where we at. This movie is according to a book. Okay? So, Trump said also on Saturday that he was directing, well, he tweeted about it, he was directing the Federal Bureau of Prisons to rebuild and reopen the infamous Alcatraz prison in San Francisco Bay to house America's most ruthless and violent offenders. Now, this is for American citizens, okay? So we just understand El Salvador is reserved for those who came from another country. Now, this Alcatraz situation, that's for, domestic folks, so to speak. Now, this wasn't open since 1960s. It's notorious. It's a prison notorious for torture and whatnot. So we're back to this. Now, what do you think does our DOJ think about it? Here's Pam Bondi.
Certain judges don't want to let you deport them back to El Salvador or wherever. The president suggested over the weekend maybe rebuild and reopen Alcatraz, put him there in the middle of the Pacific Ocean someplace.
I'm all for that. All for that, and I think it will be a cost savings. We'll have specially trained guards. They'll be in isolation. They won't be able to run their businesses, and it sends a very strong message that if you do this, you are going to be out of our society forever. Had these guys been housed at Alcatraz, this would have never, ever happened. They're drug dealers, they're the worst of the worst, and they're killers.
No due process. Can we know? I mean, if they are killers and all of this, of course we want to get rid of everybody. Can we have due process and know that this is who they are? Putting pictures all around the White House premises is not due process. So you had time and money for that, but you didn't have time and money for due process that we're famous for. Okay. He says, it feels like Trump was watching The Rock this weekend when he came up with this idea. Yeah. And ARC LA, I agree. He did not win the popular vote. Exactly. He did not. But, saying is believing in this establishment. Now, Keith, to your point, what he was watching, I don't know. Probably it was a foreign movie. Why? Because yesterday he started tweeting up a storm about taxing and tariffing movies that are not produced in the United States. Now, if you're not familiar with the process of how movies are made, they can be produced anywhere, right? Usually people can be on Zoom and just meeting and, having table reads and, producers meet years before movie even starts filming, and then they, do castings, and casting is virtual, then it's in person, then they do, reads with different, constellation of actors to see who's fitting, and then they start filming, and sometimes filming is on location because the movie is about an island, and so they film it in an island, or perhaps it's cheaper to film New York scenes in Toronto because it kind of looks that way, but it's cheaper than here because of tax credits, So it's not like it is produced somewhere, so now we're going to tariff it 100%. So it's very unclear. But yet again, he's supposed to know what Hollywood does, right? The movie industry in America is dying. And then here's that sentence that he needs to mention. This is a concerted effort by other nations, and therefore a national security threat. So, those South Korean movies that I got hooked up on Netflix, national threat. I promise you, South Korea is not dangling their movies and running behind Netflix and buy it, No, they don't. It's because Hollywood was very much off for a couple of years because of COVID. And then it was very difficult to restart again because it was very expensive to test people and test everything. And the rules have changed also to avoid, people getting sick and whatnot. And then now, if you follow any casting notes, I do, because I did I did production for NBA, WNBA, all that. So I still receive those emails. And the most thing that is being produced in the United States are vertical movies paid by Asian companies. And so they film in Atlanta, in New York, in LA. There's those apps. I've never tried it, but apparently you have an app on your phone and it's in vertical form. You can watch movies. So it's like on your phone. But again, Netflix is filming way less. They're stuck to series like Bridgerton and You, those murderous stuff, which are successful. And then they're buying and translating then movies from overseas so they can build their catalog, and it's much, much cheaper than producing it here. Because again, they're making money off of their streaming and subscriptions. How far can they grow? Big question. Because everybody has already sort of a subscription who wants to, and then we don't really go to theaters. So the world has changed. Of course, you have to change your processes, but here we are. He is all for it. And he talked about it yesterday when he arrived. President Trump arrived back at the White House.
The movie tariffs.
Yeah, the movie tariffs, what they've done is other nations have been stealing the movie-making capabilities from the United States. And I said to a couple of people, what do you think? I've done some very strong research over the last week. And we're making very few movies now. Hollywood is being destroyed. Now, you have an grossly incompetent governor that allowed that to happen. So I'm not just blaming other nations, but other nations, a lot of them, have stolen our movie industry. And I'm saying, if they're not willing to make a movie inside the United States, then we should have a tariff on movies.
Thank you for liking my South Korean movies obsession. Yes, it's gonna hurt Canada, Alberta, Canada. Who mentioned that? Let me. Karma, right? I guess Brokeback Mountain was Canadian Liberal plot to undermine U.S. Republicans. Right. That's why Tinder goes wild when they have their convention. It's going to hurt film industry here in Alberta, Canada. Karma, thank you. Yes, absolutely. Hold that thought. So on Monday, he announced that there will be 100% tariff on movies produced outside the country. Now, who knows what produced means? I just tried to explain to you. The entertainment industry reacted with a mixture of alarm and just bafflement on Monday after President Trump said he would put this 100% tariff. But they issued few details on just how such tariff would actually work because, again, there's no need. Now, he directed his DOJ to investigate connected to national security, and then he will issue the executive order. He hasn't signed any executive order yet, but this is coming, and he needs to figure out how much that tariff should be. So it's going to come this week. Every day, I post the White House schedule on a daily basis. There's always executive order to be signed. It's regular programming, if you will. So there will be something. Now, Australia and New Zealand vowed to advocate for the film industries on Monday after Trump announced his plan to impose 100% tariffs on foreign-made movies. Australia and New Zealand have emerged as popular filming locations for Hollywood movies in recent years, given lower costs and tax incentives from federal and state governments. So again, everything just benefits other nations and other people. Everywhere we withdrew our aid from, China stepped in. We withdrew from trade. Canada went and started selling oil to China. Carney, and I'm going to talk about it, is discussing free trade agreement with European Union. China is also discussing free trade agreement with European Union. European Union is also talking to Caribbean nations because they don't want Chinese products to be overdumping their market, because China will sell whatever they meant to sell in the US. Their plan is to sell elsewhere. And we were just 1/3 of their exports. So we're hurting China? No, we don't. We're just withdrawing and allowing others to lead the world. And then it will affect every single one of us. So Trump said on Sunday, now this is the big news today. We're missing National Security Advisor, right? Because Waltz was using that app, which then was Signal, and then Signal is running on some other program. And then today, our lawmaker said, and that company actually confirmed that that app was actually hacked, and so there will be a big investigation. So Waltz is out of the corner. He's supposed to be, he has to be approved by the Congress first, but he's supposed to be our representative to the UN, which Trump also wants to dismantle and take apart. But that's another story. So news are U.S. President Trump said on Sunday that Stephen Miller, his deputy chief of staff, the Stephen Miller, yes, was a front runner to be potentially named as National Security Advisor following the departure of Mike Waltz. Now, Stephen Miller was today commenting on Rubio now taking or wearing those double hats. He's our National Security Advisor, also our Secretary of State. And Miller was praising him and comparing him to Kissinger.
Stephen, Donald Trump said he is considering you, and you seem like you're at the top of the list of considerations to replace Mike Waltz as National Security Advisor. That puts fear in the heart of liberals everywhere, but I don't know who would possibly do your other job as good as you are. But your reaction to this, and that's quite a feather in your cap just to be on that list.
Well, thank you, Laura. But we have a tremendous national security advisor right now. His name is Marco Rubio. I've gotten to know Marco so well. I consider him a close friend. He's doing an extraordinary job. He will be the Kissinger of our time, and I'm just proud to work alongside him in my role as Deputy Chief and Homeland Security Advisor. And by the way, he and I are working very closely together on behalf of President Trump on the project of getting all these illegal alien gangsters out of the country. And
great comments, Karmer says. If Trump pulls out of UN, they lose their veto holding seat on Security Council. That benefits Russia in the big way. Exactly. And also Russia is advocating for adding African countries into that alliance and also into Security Council, claiming that the world has changed. And then also, they are very much affected by Putin and Wagner Group. And so that benefits them as well. James says, Stephen Miller, the Antichrist top assistant. Yeah. And I agree with her, who will do this job as fabulous as he does? I don't think anybody. But on another note, we had 2 executive orders today. Well, we also have proclamations, which are very ironic. Trump proclaimed this week as Small Business Week. He proclaimed this week as Hurricane Preparation Week. And I'm like, is it comedy? Comedy. Comedy. Okay, but 2 executive orders were signed. First one is executive order that aims to reduce the time it takes to approve pharmaceutical plants in the country as part of new regulations to encourage domestic manufacturing. So I mispronounced the words. Sorry, it's my fifth language. But the idea is that we're removing the barriers. So now you can open a pharma plant, do whatever you want, and we're not gonna, check the quality or anything. So it's pretty much you're getting like into this sort of like, I remember when I was covering the Clinton Global Initiative Conference last fall, and there was a representative from Africa, and he said that, look, like ibuprofen, 99% of pills are actually placebo. They're fake, and they're actually even worse. They can kill you, and only 0.1% are real ibuprofen pills. And this is just crazy that we have to combat that. And, this is a result of this type of banana republic situation, which we're sort of embracing now. So everything takes time. Now, he signed another executive order banning federal funding for gain-of-function research that typically enhances pathogens. The order also paused on any research using infectious pathogens and toxins in the United States that could be dangerous to citizens until a safer, more enforceable, and transparent policy governing such research can be developed and implemented. Again, removing barriers that are protecting citizens just to monetize it. Here we are. Now, quick news, a lot of them, so let's get quickly. Communications app used by Walt, as I mentioned, says it is temporarily suspending services following a reported hack that exposed some of its messages. And an email, Portland, Oregon-based Marsh, which runs the Telemessage app, I have no idea what this is, said it was investigating a potential security incident and was suspending all its services out of an abundance of caution. Now, this was used by Waltz. Now, Republican Governor Brian Kemp of Georgia, who gained national notice by refusing to cooperate with Trump's effort to overturn 2020 election defeat, on Monday said he will not run for U.S. Senate seat next year. Also, U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Haack says, now this is crazy, on Monday, today, ordered 20% reduction in the number of four-star officers, deepening cuts at the Pentagon that have shaken the Department of Defense at the start of President Donald Trump's second term in office. We're removing people who know what's actually up and who will not obey crazy orders, like taking over Greenland, Mexico, Canada, Panama. Now, President Trump's administration on Monday pushed forward in defending U.S. rules easing access to the abortion drug, mifepristone, from a legal challenge that began during Democratic and now former President Biden administration. So somehow they're aligning with Biden administration here. Probably they received some payment from the producers of that pill. The U.S. Federal Trade Commission and the Department of Justice are seeking to identify anti-competitive government regulations. The administration said on Monday the FTC and DOJ directed the heads of federal agencies to compile a list of those that they deem reduce competition, entrepreneurship, and innovation as part of the administration's efforts to rescind or modify U.S. regulations. Again, this will benefit people like Musk who are in different industries and who are also Meta, for instance, that just swallowed Snapchat, swallowed Instagram, and bought it later. So, and we're, under investigation for that. So now we're removing all this, competition fairness type of rules. Yeah. Also, Trump said on Monday he will make an announcement next week on the costs of medicines. Trump said that to reporters that U.S. was being ripped off on medicine costs when compared to the rest of the world. Now, I want you to recall a week ago when pharma kings, right, or czars as they call them, the presidents of different corporations from Pfizer to different, they were at the White House meeting with Trump. Maybe there is a crypto deal. Who knows? But I'm reading what is there. Now, of course, now we all know that Trump, remember yesterday, or 2 days ago actually, he posted this picture of himself as a pope, right? Which angered American Catholic society, and they pretty much commented also on his tweet saying that don't mock us, we are mourning, the passing of Pope Francis. What are you doing, right? Well, he said that he was joking and that he would like to be pope, and then jokingly again he continued that Melania Trump found it very cutesy, and it was so cute, and literally quote, he told the reporter, give me a break, shut the heck up, this was cute. But to quote Dr. Phil, right, this week I realized, and I posted about it, that Oprah Winfrey, no disrespect to her, but she did breed those two doctors, Dr. Oz and Dr. Phil, the very MAGA-like doctors. So he was at the White House calling President Trump a man of religion.
Is here, and he's a man of religion, but I've sat with President Trump with no cameras around, nobody listening, nobody watching. And I'm telling you, this is a man of deep faith, a man of deep conviction. And this is a man that wants this country to have a heart and have religion. And God.
Oh, God. Karma says, I switched to Wire from Signal. U.S. cabinet use of Signal has drawn too much attention from hackers. Also, Wire is Swiss-owned, governed by Swiss privacy laws. Oh, that's great. That is great. Thank you. I will look more into it. So Wire, okay? Wire's the new thing. And you say, I hear it, he's now denying posting that. Well, he said that his team posted this, but whatever. How is Body Cardinal Dolan feeling about the post? He's actually feeling good because Trump suggests him to be the Pope. You're making me nauseous. I'm sorry. Oh, everybody's throwing up. Bucket, hands. I'm sorry. That's why maybe I should be going live on Mondays and not Sundays, not to mess up your Sunday evening. By the way, if you prefer Mondays than Sundays, please comment. Okay? So throughout this. Also, officials in Trump's administration are exploring ways to challenge the tax-exempt status of nonprofit organizations. According to a report by Wall Street Journal, Internal Revenue Service, the IRS, lawyers have been examining whether the rules governing how nonprofits can lose their tax-exempt status could be revised, citing sources familiar with the matter. Now, this does not concern religious institutions. Don't dream about it. The talk here is about Harvard and Columbia University and any little nonprofits, and let's say owned by Clintons or Bidens or Bush, anybody. That's where the talk is about. I know all of you mostly commented, oh yeah, this is great for religious institutions. No, religious institutions are doing this thing at the White House. They have this religious thing where they pray to him, and yeah. So, okay. Now, Guatemalan migrant who crossed U.S. border 8 months pregnant and gave birth in Arizona has avoided fast-track deportation after intervention by state's governor, her lawyer, and a federal official said on Saturday. Now, this is again, could be that case, same as the case of Garcia, who was unjustly or, well, without due process deported to El Salvador. This could be another case which could lead to either defending the right, the birthright to citizenship, or eliminating it. So we need to pay attention to those small cases because, again, our case law is the fundamental basis, one of the sources for our law in America. Now, Secretary of Interior Burgum said that U.S. may face widespread power outages this summer. Quote, we saw what happened this week in Spain. The same could happen in America this summer. He noted that U.S. is currently facing significant problems with power generation, for which, of course, he blamed Biden. Well, if you F around and find out with Canada, then the East Coast will certainly face problems. They have a good, well, good or not good, but they have minister who, who can turn it off real quick and real proper for us. Also, White House, I mentioned that earlier in my clips. They launched a new page called White House Wire. It's 24/7. They send you different articles. All of this is manufactured. And weirdly, they also launched a new report, the new briefing for new media. And without any further ado, here's a little taste of it. Take a look.
Thank you. Thank you for giving me the honor to be able to ask a question to provide some transparency for the American people. Speaking of, I wanted to reference the election integrity. A lot of people in America are questioning if there's any possibility that we could see further investigations for anyone that could have violated our election integrity rights. And more importantly, so is there any possibility for names such as Barack Hussein Obama, Hillary Rodham Clinton to ever just possibly get investigated for any of these, questions from the American people, for any of the wrongdoings they might have done?
Well, it's refreshing to actually hear a question on election integrity because the legacy.
He had to put Hussein Obama. And of course, it's all produced. Of course, it had to be an African-American guy asking this question. No, these are not reporters. They're influencers. I have not checked their following. Are they legitimate influencers? Are they influencers in media? Or are they influencers maybe in food, maybe in dress? I don't know. Who knows? Well, it's provocative. Now, Trump administration, as I mentioned earlier, is offering $1,000 in travel assistance to migrants who elect to voluntarily self-deport from the U.S. And here's more on that.
So if you're an illegal alien, you should download the CBP Home app. It's free on any device, and you can go get a flight that'll be paid for by DHS. And as well, we will give you a $1,000 stipend. Again, that's 70% savings for U.S. taxpayers. It's also safer for the migrant. It is safer for our law enforcement. If you self-deport, you should do so today.
Why should they trust that they would give him priority, Tricia?
There's documentation, and we're giving you our word that we will give you this money and that you can leave today. It's the safest way. You will not be arrested. You will not be detained, and we will give you that free flight.
She sounds like somebody's hurting her. I hope nobody does. Now, Trump administration issued termination notices late Friday to employees at Worker Health and Safety Agency that supports coal miners, firefighters, and others, despite appeals from Republican lawmakers urging the preservation of its programs. Now, we're caring about workers, right? Right. Warren Buffett announced that he is retiring. The full report is in tonight's newsletter that will come right after we're done with this broadcast, so you can or live stream, so you can read more about it and also about his successors. It's a long thing. Also, let's talk about global news that are they are. Romania. Remember about a month ago, they had a guy, Georgescu, who a week before the election appeared, gathered hundreds of thousands of followers on TikTok and somehow won. Then they said, well, the government of did an investigation, said this was illegal, this was sponsored by Russia, and so they canceled out this. They have 2 rounds of elections. They canceled out the first round. They said, we have to do it again because, Georgescu is not legally running, or it's very much includes interference by a foreign agent, being Russia. Now, yesterday, they had another, again, second try for the first round of presidential election, which was won by a guy who is 39 years old, who is a former football heckler. They watch football, which we call soccer here, and they burn stuff and fight with each other. That's the path. So this guy won the election. He calls himself a Trumpist. I have a picture here, so you get the visual. Here you go. He gathered 40.5% of votes in the first round. He's known for his nationalist, pro-Russian, and Eurosceptic views. Simeon, that's his last name, advocates for the unification of Romania and Moldova while opposing support for Ukraine. He has a controversial history, being banned from Ukraine and Moldova, and is linked to pro-Kremlin figure Georgescu. In the May 18, which will be the second round, he will then again compete with Bucharest mayor Nikushor Dan. And so this is Bucharest mayor who is Sorbonne educated. He got only 20.99% of votes. He holds a doctor's degree in mathematical science. He's democratic. He's pro-Europe. He's pro-democracy. But yet again, people are choosing this. Now, what could be the repercussions if he were to be elected in the second round? The front runner, he says he has a triumph. Well, he calls it, he wins the popular vote, which he doesn't, 40%. But again, you fear the notion, you see the cap, so it's on brand. He wants to isolate Romania. He wants to reduce foreign investment. So he wants to cut aid to Ukraine, which will be weakening NATO's eastern flank because Romania is in NATO. And so also his party, AUR party, which stands for Alliance for Union of Romanians, opposes the supply of weapons to Kiev and categorically rejects the idea of transferring Patriot air defense systems to Ukraine. If he wins the election, Simeon plans to appoint Georgescu as his prime minister, and the pro-Russian politician has a criminal past and ties to fascist movements, but is barred from running in the election. That's the Georgescu. Simeon has promised to stop supporting Ukrainian refugees in Romania and kick them out. He positions himself as a supporter of Donald Trump and calls his platform Trumpist. In 2024, Ukraine imposed a 3-year travel ban to Simeon due to his anti-Ukrainian activities. The second round of elections will be on May 18th. Now, then the report came out that Russia was involved again. Here we go. This was reported by Ukraine Now. Jorgen nodded. He summarized this together, so I want to give him credit for that. Now, Russian hackers attacked Romanian government websites during the first round of presidential elections. The DDoS SIA, the No Name 57 group, attacked the website of the Romanian Constitutional Court, the main governmental portal, the website of Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and the websites of 4 presidential candidates. This was reported by Politico. Now, on the morning of May 4th, the election day, the resources were unavailable to users. The Romanian National Cybersecurity Agency reported that the websites listed by the hacking group were already active at 2 p.m. local time. So, will they run another investigation? Again, call this election off? Will they succeed? Will they not? Remains to be seen. But just so we see how Russia will try and try and try to take over countries without physically attacking them. And if that does not succeed, then they go further and attack. So talking about ceasefire, talking about freedom, talking about peace, BS. You have to know who you're talking to and who you're talking about, right? But here are Donald Trump's accomplishments. Yesterday, Australia re-elected their prime minister. Now, same as in Canada, the leading party, in this case was Labour Party, was very unpopular. And because they said that they will defend Indo-Pacific and Pacific region altogether against Trump, and especially if he withdraws from NATO, and they want to be independent and they want to protect their interests when it comes to trade, the Labour Party gained momentum. And so Albanese, who has been the prime minister, yet unpopular, won the election. Now, here's a visual how Australians went to vote. It's very special, very Australian. I like it. I like the pants on the right. And so this went to a great lead by Albanese, and he won, and this was all great. And then Australia talked today, or the Prime Minister talked today to Trump. He also talked to Prime Minister Carney of Canada. They agreed to talk about free trade with Australia, so it's building up. Now, speaking about Canada, this is another achievement by Donald Trump, where Pierre Poilievre, who was, I'll explain, the leader of Conservative Party, who was the sort of Maple MAGA guy, literally blew a 30-point lead. because he aligned himself with Maple MAGA. And then last minute he said, oh no, sort of like Trump said, oh no, to Project 2025, but people kind of saw through it. And so ultimately Mark Carney won 169 seats in the parliament. 172 would have been a full majority, absolute majority, but 169, we take that. And 144 seats were by conservatives. Now, the leader of the Maple MAGA conservatives, Poilievre, was not elected in his district or in his area. And so I'm looking for the word. I'll remember in a second. So he was not elected. So he lost his seat in parliament. And then he went on this mojo trying to convince somebody who was elected to give up the seat to him. And he found this person. And this person is giving him his seat in Alberta. The guy was elected with 80+% of votes. Now, this guy did not even get the votes to be in the parliament, but then still Maple MAGA conservatives in Canada are still wanting to keep him as a leader, even though unelected and unwanted, because he had great rallies and he represents our messaging and blah, 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 blah. But, and here's the fun part about the guy who gave up his own seat. Oop, where do I have it? Here. No, I don't. Here we go. Pierre Poilievre accepting the seat from a man who was only 6 months away from earning his pension should tell you everything you need to know about his character. He is here to serve himself. So, Mr. Damian Keurig, I feel sad for you. I feel bad for you. Now, Carney, in his first week, he spoke to EU leaders, the president of European Commission. He talked about European Union and Canada building together and having stronger futures together. They talked about free trade relationship, bolstering economic security, and work side by side on shared defense and security challenges. He also celebrated the free, the world freedom of press, or press freedom. And he said that he will be investing in CBC, sort of same as we have here, NPR and state-sponsored television channels. And altogether will be bolstering Canadian voices. Now, what did Poilievre do aside from, convincing the guy to give him the seat back that he didn't win? And actually in Alberta, totally different area. But he also did release a video today, sort of celebrating that Canada is that place worth fighting for. It's very hilarious. Look at the guy who was unwanted and unelected.
Well, it's been about a week since the election, and it didn't go how we wanted. But when you get knocked down, you get up and get going. And we've got a lot to be thankful for. I'm thankful for you, the countless people who packed out our rally halls, our 2.3 million extra votes, the 25 extra seats, the breakthroughs in Ontario and BC, the expanded coalition of young people, union workers, entrepreneurs, soldiers, and countless others.
Nobody voted for you. And by the way, he ran his whole campaign like Trump, saying that Canada sucks and, make Canada great again. And it's the worst. And now it's worth fighting for. What give up? Now, here's Prime Minister Carney on also immigration. He did mention something that is sort of aligns with conservative views. He wants to put a cap on TPS, temporary protected stay, and also foreign workers. Take a look.
We will return our immigration to sustainable levels by capping the total number of temporary workers and international students at less than 5% of Canada's population by the end of 2027.
And people were saying, why not now? Yeah, because you have students, you have workers who applied for their visas years in advance and they got approved and they have waited. And so you can't do this now. You would be cuckoo and you would be somewhere near DC. But anyway, this is Ottawa. Speaking of Ottawa, as you know, I was in Biden's press pool. And so I remember how, especially in the last year, Biden was harassed by so-called journalists. So anybody with a phone, anybody with a mic, anybody with an agenda, and the lack of he was screaming, "Do you have a brain? What are you talking about? Show us that you're alive. Is this a copy of you? Is it a doll? Are you still alive?" Now look what Carney is facing now in Ottawa.
Mr. Carney, you ran a fear-based campaign focused on Trump, elbows up.
Did you practice that line?
I did, actually.
Why does Trump prefer you over Pierre Poilievre? Why does Trump say he makes you less? Are you playing?
Do you plan? Do you plan to do anything about the weekly hate?
They should try harder. White House is a bit advanced on this one, but how sad and how pathetic and how crazy. Now, Carney is already in Washington, D.C., and here he has arrived today. And so he will be meeting with Trump tomorrow. I'll check my email while we watch videos at what time this will be, because I'm not going there because I'll be put on a weird list by the White House, nor I will be led into the Oval Office because I ask questions. But here's Trump talking about having the conversation with Carney and also what he anticipates from that visit.
Yesterday he spoke about American betrayal. Are you interested in rebuilding relations with Canada? And if so, how?
No, well, I think we're going to have a great relationship. He called me up yesterday. He said, "Let's make a deal." You know, he was running for office. They both hated Trump, and it was the one that hated Trump, I think, the least that won. I actually think the conservative hated me much more than the so-called liberal. He's a pretty liberal guy. But no, I spoke to him yesterday. Couldn't have been nicer. And I congratulated him. You know, it was.
And then he said, well, yesterday, that he still wants to seize Canada and he wants to talk about Canada becoming 51st state. Now, this is Carney talking about the meeting.
First meeting, as I mentioned in my remarks, and the President and I discussed when we had our constructive call, there are two sets of issues. There are the immediate tariffs, both sectoral and so-called reciprocal and fentanyl tariffs, and then there is the broader relationship. So addressing both sets of issues, we'll see how that progress goes. It's important to get engaged immediately, which has always been my intention, has always been his intention, and I'm pleased to have the opportunity for quite a comprehensive set of meetings that will take place on Tuesday.
How do you avoid an Oval Office ambush like we saw happen to President Zelensky?
Look, I go there with the expectation of constructive, difficult but constructive discussions. That's the spirit of the conversations that the President and I had. You know, you go to these meetings well prepared, understanding the objectives of your counterpart, and always acting in the best interest of Canada, and we'll go from there. Thanks.
And I like this comment. Carmen says, "Pretty pathetic welcome for our PM. Not much of show of respect." I didn't see anybody from Trump administration there, so there were probably the ambassadors from Canada in U.S. That's how it looked like, but we'll see. I really, as I mentioned, I really hope that Carney will stand for, for his rights and for Canada's rights and respect, and not bow down, not to be too friendly. Like, you have to show strength. And I like this meme. I'm going to make it the, cartoon of the day in the newsletter. This is how I dress up for the White House. Never 51. Cool. Now, other news, the governors of 6 U.S. states have invited Canadian provincial leaders to discuss the impact of tariffs imposed by Trump. One of those states said in a statement on Monday. Now, the states are Massachusetts, Maine, New York, Connecticut, Rhode Island, and Vermont. They extended their invitation to premiers of 6 Canadian provinces, and the statement was shared by the Office of Massachusetts Governor. Now, representatives go now from Canada. I'll cover it extensively tomorrow, maybe even go live and talk about it. If I'm in the pool, which is not publicized or reported, so I'm going to get the, I'm checking the schedule. Schedule's not there yet. Just Duolingo reminding me to practice my French. Anyway, so I will be in that pool. I'll be reading the intel or messages from Canadian media and also from who travels with Carney or his cabinet, so to speak. I know Melanie Jolie. I know cabinet is not confirmed yet, but by the way, Parliament will be opened by King Charles on May 27th, 26th, 27th. King Charles and Queen Consort Camilla will be there. And for the first time in 50 years, he will be opening Parliament from the throne and also reconfirming the status of a sovereign country of Canada. So this will be a wonderful thing to cover, which I'm very, excited about to do. Now, in other news, so we will cover this extensively tomorrow. Now, moving away. Now, representatives for Indian billionaire Gautam Adani met with the Trump administration to seek dismissal of criminal charges in an overseas bribery probe, with a resolution possible in a month, Bloomberg News said. So when I post the schedule of the White House and you wonder, what do they do before 1 p.m.? This. Okay. Now, Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum said on Saturday that the U.S. President Trump had proposed sending American troops to Mexico to combat drug trafficking, to which she said, I rejected because sovereignty is not for sale. And then Trump today confirmed his desire to send troops into Mexico for help. And either he doesn't understand or maybe he lies that this is sort of like an invasion, So, talking about Ukraine, they did a big thing over the weekend. Ukrainian military intelligence has reportedly used a naval drone, the Magura unmanned surface vessel, to shoot down the Russian Su-30 fighter jet near the port of Novorossiysk. This marks the first known instance of a naval drone successfully downing a fighter jet, setting a new precedent in modern warfare. The Magura, previously deployed to strike Russian naval vessels and infrastructure like Kerch Bridge, has now expanded its operational scope in a dramatic and historic way. So Ukraine is leading, by necessity, leading the innovation, right, when it comes to warfare. And so this will be certainly a very good thing to consider for others to buy. And, Ukraine will be profiting off of that. Now, as to reality, right, because Trump said, we're sending aid to Ukraine, which no, he stopped aid and now he's resuming aid that Biden sent. There's nothing new, okay? If you don't hear Congress approving anything on Ukraine, which they won't, let's be frank, it's not new, it's just old news. But the reality is 2 of 8 Patriot systems that Ukraine has are currently under repair. This was reported by New York Times. So Kyiv will receive 1 air defense system that was based in Israel by the summer, and the transfer of another one from Germany or Greece is also being discussed. So that's total. They would have 10 Patriot systems, but for now, they have actually only 6 functioning ones. Also, Ukrainian troops were seen joining the British troops in London for V-Day and the 80th anniversary. And I have a video here. Take a look. And people were laughing. Oh my God, they're not so presentable. They are at war. They send people who will be marching in London. Do you think they're going to send their best to march in London when the country is under a brutal attack for the 4th year in a row? Give me a break. So, Forbes reported that at current rate, listen carefully, this is crazy. At current rate, Russia would need until 2256 year 2256. We're now in 2025. 2256 at current rate to capture Ukraine at a cost of 101 million casualties. That's 70% of Russia's population for 81% of Ukraine's land. They would need till 2256, and they would spend 101 million lives to capture 81% of Ukraine. Now, Putin, for the first time, spoke. Well, he said he has the power to finish the war, which he hasn't. I'll just explain to you why. I really want you to remember the statistic. Yes, I'm going to put it in the newsletter. Copy it, share it, put it out. That's the reality. That's the reality. We're talking to somebody who has no resources. Russian Security Council, well, the drunk Medvedev, he started reacting because Trump was tweeting over the weekend saying that United States contributed the most for win over the fascists in World War II. Medvedev, after hundreds, bottle of vodka, says that this potential is nonsense. Trump has posted that U.S. was unmatched in strength, bravery, and military brilliance, and he wants to have a holiday in the U.S. on May 8th. Now, 80 years we had no holiday, and then we certainly start having a holiday just because you weren't invited to Moscow parade. Speaking of which, big parade was planned for May 9th. I put a video about it, all of it, right? With Xi attending, China's leader, Modi, Prime Minister of India, leaders of Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, and all of it, right? And Belarus, and so also Slovakia and Hungary and all of it. So then China asked Ukraine to provide safety, to say, hey, no juju on May 9th, right? Putin said we're going to have 3-day ceasefire. Zelensky said, no, let's have 30-day ceasefire. Why 3-day? No. And then to China, Zelensky said, I can't promise the safety of those people in, near Kremlin. Who am I to promise you safety? To which then suddenly it was reported by Reuters that Vladimir Putin will be present at the parade on Red Square via video telecommunication. That's his parade. Okay. So then Serbia's Vučić, leader of Serbia, president, and Slovakia's Fico said that they felt suddenly ill. And by the way, Fico was Vučić, Slovakia's Vučić, was actually in DC to meet with Trump. He felt sick, something with his cardio, something, and then he didn't listen to the doctors who said, stay here. He flew back and he's not going to the parade. But bottom line, Slovakia and Serbia not going, Hungary not going because Piglet, what's his name? Orban said that we have different views on World War II. Like, we don't want to celebrate Russia's win. We were there too, And then Modi, Prime Minister of India, canceled his trip to Moscow. And then he said that his Indian defense minister will go, who then also canceled the trip. Now, on Saturday, the Chinese army, or like performance team of the army, were seen rehearsing in Moscow for the parade. I guess Russians, ran out of bodies, and so this is China's support. Then it was reported that Xi and the leader of Kazakhstan will also attend on Skype. By the way, Skype today ceased their operations, but Skype for Business is still working, so maybe they're using that. Or there's always this TV broadcast that you can't ignore. Now, meanwhile, in Washington, D.C., Russian and USSR flags were seen as immortal regiment march was suddenly again permitted through Washington, D.C. This was prohibited since 2022 because of the war and the brutal invasion of Ukraine. Now it's returning back to America, and it is there. Now, speaking of China, well, the weather is warming up, and millions of Chinese now occupy every single park and beach, and there's no free space, right? Even in the water. From Monday 1st to May 1st to May 5th, China was on holiday and people were not working. So the May Day celebrations have led to overcrowding, with vacationers filling every space meter of public space. Parks and beaches were completely packed, and there was barely any room left in the water. And if you think you can't visualize it, think again. How about that vacation? Now, our Secretary of Defense Hextess was talking about China today. He says that China poses a threat to people and peace in the region. He was talking about Americas, all Americas. He hosted an enhanced honor and cordon meeting with welcoming Peruvian Defense Minister Astudillo and Peruvian Foreign Ministers Schaller to the Foreign Affairs Minister Elmer Schaller to Pentagon today. He says Beijing is investing and operating in the region for unfair economic gain, and together, in order to prevent conflict, we need to robustly deter China's potential threats in the hemisphere. So we look forward to being partners with Peru. And then he said, putting America first also means we're putting the Americas first, he said. Okay. How's that going to pan out? Is that the reason to withdraw from NATO or like Eastern Europe, just so you can have some whatever? I would like details. I like details. Can we have details? So Putin, for the first time, spoke about having a successor. Now, here's a video of him. You will need to read subtitles because obviously he speaks Russian. But he never spoke about having a successor. He's sort of hinting on it, which kind of makes you think like he doesn't really consider that until he's gone. Take a look.
Но наша страна, она так много пережила и знает, что означает роль личности в истории, что неизбежно, конечно, интересует вопрос, что дальше. Вы об этом думаете? Что дальше? Кто дальше?
Ну, я всегда об этом думаю. И в конечном итоге вот можно как угодно к этому относиться, но в конечном итоге ясно, что есть там предвыборные технологии, есть административный ресурс, но все-таки в конечном счете выбор за людьми, за российским народом, за гражданами, за избирателями. Шансов сделать что-то по-серьезному вряд ли будет у человека, за которым не стоит доверие народа. Это...
Nothing will be achieved by somebody who does not have support of the crowd. What are you talking about? You've been president literally 25 years. You dismantled the Constitution, you changed it, and you're still there. Now, what would happen if a successor is chosen? First and foremost, it would signal a massive redistribution of assets, because as a authoritarian, he holds the national resources, he controls them, and he sees those billionaires and gazillionaires as his own wallets, right? So currently, the Patrushev-Shemezov tandem, this is the FSB and others, remain the most powerful, even though Patrushev has de facto lost his status as overseer of the security services. Now, a key catalyst for the successor discussion was Putin's special envoy, Dmitriev, remember the one who was meeting with America in Saudi Arabia, who many quickly labeled as family nominee due to his close ties to Putin's daughter. Now, a confrontation between old Kremlin elites and the new contenders is not out of the question. What my statement is, it appears to be a kind of loyalty test for Putin's inner circle, aimed at intensifying competition and rivalry among them for greater control. So he's saying that to see who's going to be, now zhuzhed up and trying to take him over, and so he can eliminate them. Right? So it's kind of like dangling the carrot and seeing who's hungry, and then you get rid of them. So you always have to see that as sort of the strategy. But now the German general put out a very concerning statement where he alleges, that Russia is secretly preparing to take on NATO by 2027. Take a look.
Inspector General of the Bundeswehr Carsten Breuer stated that Russia is systematically enhancing its military capabilities, producing up to 1,500 tanks and millions of shells annually, a significant portion of which is being stockpiled. He indicated that this points to preparations for a potential large-scale war. According to him, by 2029, Russia could reach a level of readiness that would enable it to launch an attack on NATO. He called on the alliance to act immediately, strengthening defense, mobilization capabilities, and intelligence sharing, warning that time is running out.
And so the Kremlin was asked by reporters about a potential meeting between Putin and Trump. And although Kremlin said a meeting would be necessary and it could be in Saudi Arabia, they confirmed that there's nothing scheduled for May in Saudi Arabia, saying that not now, So now, in Europe, meanwhile, unknown perpetrators cut copper cables at 5 different points along the high-speed line between Madrid and Andalusia. Authorities are calling it sabotage, and an investigation is underway. And here's a picture to visualize that. So disruption hit during a long weekend and just before the Feria festival in Seville. It's the second major breakdown in 2 weeks. The previous one was a blackout with still no clear explanation. So people are still stranded across Europe just because everything sort of fell apart. Now, Prime Minister of UK, Starmer, spoke today with the President of France, Macron. They spoke about the significance of V-Day and commemorations. They spoke about Ukraine. They called for unconditional 30-day ceasefire. They spoke about Gaza, urging for renewed peace and deepening UK-France ties and defense, security, and migration. They will have France-UK summit later this summer, and both also backed a strong EU-UK summit that will also be ahead. Actually, this is in the summer, and then France-UK might be next year. I'll put it in the newsletter. I'll see the exact dates. So EU now will double military aid for Ukraine by $40 billion if Trump fails to persuade Putin to peace, EU Defense Commissioner Kubilius said. Now, meanwhile, EU also said to propose banning Russian gas imports by the end of 2027. Now, this was reported today, literally tonight, by Bloomberg. Meanwhile, the United States, Israel, and representatives of newly formed international foundation are nearing an agreement to resume humanitarian aid deliveries to Palestinians in Gaza, aiming to bypass Hamas control. This Axios, whatever, reported that on Friday. Now, what did happen until then, or since then, better said? Yesterday, Israeli officials confirmed that the country's air force was carrying out strikes on the port of city of Hodeidah. The strikes are in response to ballistic missile attack by Houthi forces, which hit an area near Ben Gurion airport yesterday. So they're bombing Yemen. The strikes on the airport injured several people. Now, Donald Trump and Turkish President Erdogan today held a phone conversation and agreed that both leaders described this conversation as very productive and said that they discussed everything from how to end Russia's war in Ukraine to Syria and the Gaza war. And there's no details on how they plan to do it. Now, interestingly, this is reported by, as you see here, let's guess the outlet. Anyway, so that the Gaza had wire, right? Newswire. Israel held sort of elections of votes, and they voted to capture all of Gaza and occupy it indefinitely. So pretty much seizing everything. Is that part of the plan? There's also an EO executive order coming from Trump, allegedly, reported by Reuters, but until we see it signed, allegedly stating that Americans will face from $1 million, some sort of pay to 20 years in prison for criticizing Israel. Now, let's see it happen or not happen, but that sort of ties in together. If Israel votes, I don't know, was that what kind of vote was that? Usually votes are, connected to elections, but I don't know. Anyway, if they voted to seize Gaza and then we're not allowed to say anything, ties in together. Now, remember that Congo and Rwanda are fighting, and Trump wants to come in between and agree that, well, let them agree to peace deal because he wants to have minerals from both destinations. So they have submitted a draft peace proposal as part of a process meant to end fighting in Eastern Congo and attract billions of dollars of Western investment, which, Trump's senior advisor for Africa said on Monday that this will happen. Now, lastly, this is really a big deal. Now, if we're speaking about World War III, if we're speaking about potential nuclear attack, now this here is the closest that it can come to. And we're not talking about Gaza, we're not talking about Ukraine. We're talking about India and Pakistan. So India now halts water flow to Pakistan. This is first time in 65 years. So first time since 1960s, India cut off water from Baglihar Dam, breaching the Indus Waters Treaty. The next up, according to India, is the Kishanganga Dam. The Pakistan sees that as an act of aggression. Both are de facto nuclear powers. So take a look how the dam currently looks like since it's closed. So this could be used to flood Pakistan too. But again, Pakistan sees that as provocation. They're ready to escalate. US says, figure it out by yourself. I don't want to be part of it. Now, what is very concerning and interesting, that Turkish naval ship TCG Buyukada arrived at Karachi port in Pakistan. Turkish foreign policy experts want to play it down, calling it a usual port visit after a similar visit to Oman. But Pakistan calls it a goodwill visit by Turkish Navy. But the timing makes people question the motive. And so if you speak to Navy officials, professionals who know what's up, they see it as a clear sign that Turkey is trying to help Pakistan or is preparing for anything that could come. And here's the ship. As you see here, it arrived at the shore in Pakistan. This is Turkish Navy ships, not one, actually many. And so United States also on Monday, this is not connected to this story, but it imposed sanctions on Monday on Myanmar warlord, his two sons and two militia he leads for facilitating cyber scams, human trafficking, and cross-border smuggling. So again, we'll discuss that in the newsletter, and I'll have the full readout on that. Lastly, what I wanted to show that, yes, I did cover AOC town hall. Here's a short clip, but then the full coverage is available in our Friday newsletter. So if you're not subscribed, it's very easy and it's free. And you will get an email Monday, Wednesday, Friday with our news briefing. Saturday is Canada edition. And on Sunday, we have the Sunday edition, which has absolutely nothing to do with politics because I figured it's so heavy throughout the week. So let's have Sunday with nothing, right? So honestnetwork.com, ONEST.com, network.com is where you can get it. It's also in my little writing here. Here's my little clip from my AOC town hall.
Hey guys, we're here at the town hall with Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. We are in Queens, New York, where she will be meeting with her constituents one-on-one in a personal meeting. Now, this comes at the moment where American democracy and the safety of those fighting for it is really under threat. So let's see how this goes, and I will document all the questions asked today.
First, it is important to note that the theater was at full capacity, including the overflow room located in the gym. AOC entered to a standing ovation. People were very enthusiastic to see her, especially since her successful Fight the Oligarchy tour that she's been on with Bernie Sanders. Of course, we also had hackers. We had a pro-Palestine protester who
called AOC a warmonger, and then she was seen being escorted out. Altogether, AOC did a great job pointing out the Trump Doge impact on her district, New York 14, but also the country. I put it all together, including the quotes and details, in my coverage, which is located on our website, but also in the latest newsletter, which is absolutely free. Please read, share, and subscribe.
On this note, let's finish on the note of decency. And former President Biden held a speech at a service on Sunday where he spoke about decency, but also the power of women in the Biden family. Take a look.
And can laugh at the days to come. Well, that's exactly what dignity is. A word used in my family. Everyone is entitled. Every one of God's children be entitled treated with dignity. And folks, strength, dignity, and laughter, joy. So many women from my life embody those qualities, and so many from yours as well. Women are the backbone of our families, our communities, and our country. My sister Valerie is my best friend growing up. Jill, my wife, is the love of my life and the life of my love. My daughter Ashley she's crazy about me. My daughter. And then I have the blessing of having 4 beautiful granddaughters. Naomi, who's lawyer Finnegan Biden, and Maisie Biden, and Natalie Biden. And so from the time they were born, I must tell, forgive me, God, but I would walk to the top of the stairs when they'd be in my house. I can't sing worth a darn, but my mother, Catherine Eugenia Finnegan Biden, used to sing Irish lullabies to us. And she'd sing Turalura, Turaluralai, what an Irish lullaby. Anyway, I'd stand at the top of the stairs. I can't sing at all. And I'd sing Turalura, and then everybody come to look up the stairs, what I was doing. And I'd be holding one of my granddaughters and say, remember now, your favorite person in the whole world is Pop. So to this day, if you see any of my daughters, my granddaughters, say, who's your favorite person? They'll say, Pop. Pop. Folks, look, women really are the backbone of this community and every community, but particularly in the black community for so many years. They've carried the load. And, we see every day in the
who was claiming that he is incapacitated and this and that. I mean, this sounded good to me, better than anything that I reported on. I mean, from certain people. Now, don't forget, we have Sunday edition. If you haven't read it yet, yesterday was a new one. We spoke about the sounds that make you happy. Then I took you to the Brooklyn Botanical Gardens, and these little things are very popular, and I explained why. Also, like I shared the mocktails. This time was mojito and the recipes, and also we talked about blue zones and the tips for longevity or improving your way of life. So check it out. It's all on honestnetwork.com. It's free. Please like and share. I appreciate you, and let me know. I'll share this, and underneath, let me know if you prefer Sunday or Monday. And our newsletter for today is going to come in an hour or so. I'll have to proofread it, put it together. I keep updating my email. I don't have the schedule for the White House yet, so you have to be checking your Blue Sky or X, whatever. I'm going to share the timing there, because we're all looking for Prime Minister Carney's meeting at the Oval Office. Okay, so thank you once again. Let's keep our heads on a swivel. Have a positive week and productive week. And if you're feeling some type of way, please get better and take care of yourself physically and emotionally and psychologically. It's all important. We need you happy and healthy. Karma says, on a side note, CTV Calgary just posted a piece of the impact of the film tariff on Alberta. Absolutely. And I mean, everybody will. Toronto will also. Thanks, Oli. Take care of yourself. Absolutely. Thank you. And thank you, Karma, for commenting. Thank you, James. Thank you, Keith. Thank you, everybody who commented today. Tidy Whitey, yes, you stuck with us. Absolutely. Thank you so much. And thank you, James. And Yes, 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 absolutely. Thank you so much. Have a positive week. And if something crazy happens tomorrow, God forbid, I'll be live, but all together, let me know Sunday or Monday. We'll for sure see each other and check the news briefings and Sunday edition and Canada edition. Okay. All right. I'm done. Thank you so much. Have a good night.